And it's a criminal act against the fans. Simple as that. Deduct points, deduct their money, and punish them.
If you have not heard about the Super League, where have you been? This has taken the sports world by storm over the last couple of weeks, and it was potentially going to change football or soccer forever. Essentially, what it was is that some of the top clubs in Europe banded together to create a new league called the Super League, and this would essentially wipe out the existing European league called the Champions League. It would be a major upset to all of the domestic leagues played in each of the individual European countries, and it was not met very well by fans, managers, or players. So I wanted to get the opinion of my friend who is a massive football fan and also has an invested interest in this because he is a player manager. I want to talk to him about how the league affects fans, about how it affects other teams, and how it might affect the player that he is managing going forward. Welcome Diaz to the call. How you doing, brother?
Hey man, good to be here.
As you know, this channel is all about the hustle, right? Less so about the music hustle, more about the entrepreneurial spirit. So I might have to have you on again in the future to talk about all of your entrepreneurial endeavors because you're
Sounds good, man. Just call my secretary or something.
because you are dealing with like foreign governments and selling military grade equipment and all this crazy stuff. But we'll talk about that in the future because
Right.
what I wanted to get your opinion on today is football related, as I know, a huge passion of yours. And
Yes, sir.
what is going on with the Super League stuff, man?
Man, no one knows, but like I think everybody just felt like this bomb being dropped on Sunday, just out of the blue. And it was also really, really late. So which was, funny, but now we understand why. It's the American time zone, as it turned out to be. There has been talks of like an exclusive European Super League for quite a few years now. But we never thought that it would be announced like this, or that it would be excluding the governing football bodies, that we know, the UEFA for Europe, and obviously for the entire world, FIFA. So they were all not involved at all, and basically it's like a big middle finger to pretty much all the football governing bodies, when the news came out. So, well, officially, the all the Premier League clubs have all pulled out officially, and I think I think there's only four now, four clubs remaining: Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, and AC Milan. So I doubt this thing is gonna see the light of the day,
Wow.
which which it shouldn't.
All right, so just a little bit of background. You are actually trying to manage an upcoming football player, is that right?
Yeah, I am managing he's not yet signed a professional contract, but hopefully it's going that way. Yes, he's playing in the fourth division in Holland.
Right. Okay. So therefore, you do have a pretty good insight, not only being a fan from a really young age of Manchester United, but also that you're pretty. I mean, you're pretty invested in the fact that you need that your football player to be able to rise through the different leagues.
That is absolutely vital. That's the whole beauty of football, is that just take Leicester for example. That's it's a beautiful story because every single fan around the world, forget your allegiances to your clubs, but you got to love, how that season unfolded, because they had come through, what you can say the pyramid, through the different leagues, the divisions, and near the season before nearly, relegated, only to salvage their season to stay in the Premier League in the last like 7 games or something, and then go on to do what they did, winning the championship outright the following the following season. So basically, that whole concept of the Super League is it's not to have that at all. That competition, which is the point of, I think, football slash sport in general.
So would the teams be shooting themselves in the foot to a degree? Because let's say, the Liverpool. Let's say if Liverpool did not join the Super League, but all the other top 5 clubs did, right? The top 5 clubs would then be getting a bonus of between 100 and 350 million euros just to sign up, right?
Right.
Plus, they'd be getting a much bigger share of the viewing rights or the viewing distributions. So then those teams would be richer. They would be able to afford more players, better infrastructure, and Liverpool would then be left behind. Is that right? Not only Liverpool, but the rest of the league would be left behind, and it would have a knock-on effect to the league below it, and the league below it, and the league below it, and therefore also affect the player you're managing.
Yeah, but the problem with that, how many clubs could they gather to participate in this, in the so-called Super League? Obviously we all know this is about money, but without those brands, we can call them brands, they're football clubs, yeah, but they're really, they have become brands now. If you don't have those 14 or the 20 to make up a proper league, then there isn't going to be a league, but obviously the allure of the money is, in order to have control of the revenues, broadcasting rights, et cetera. I understand the idea, but the way this was executed without consulting the people who are most involved in the club, is where it went wrong, really.
So an execution mistake. If they would have raised the idea, saying to the fans, saying to the managers, saying to the world, hey, this is what we want to do.
Exactly.
This is what it will do for our team. These are the knock-on benefits to the other teams, because they did say that part of the distribution or the viewing rights, part of the money generated from that would go to the other teams in the league that weren't part of the Super League. Right. But that kind of looks like sloppy seconds, right? If you're a team that's not allowed to be in it. Makes sense. Now, was UEFA most upset by the fact that it would pretty much cancel out the Champions League?
Yes. It would deem their competition completely useless, because it would replace, the midweek competition, which is a UEFA competition, be it the Champions League or the Europa League, right? Because that's when they intended it to take place. So I don't know how they were looking to to make that work in their announcement. So yeah, that's also a big question mark, and which is why obviously the UEFA and FIFA and even the each country's governing bodies were really mugged off by by this announcement, because like I said, it's just a big middle finger to pretty much everyone, even to the players that these clubs play for, and the fans. It's
why a middle finger to the players? Because arguably the players would be able to, renegotiate their contracts and get more money.
So the problem is, because of this announcement, and it being, it not involving the governing bodies or any of the players or the coaches or the fans. You're saying, okay, so the Champions League is not good enough. International football is no longer good enough or no longer attractive or whatever. But these players are now being threatened, well, not threatened, but they're being like, well, yeah, there were threats of bans from competing in their national teams, right? And the Euros 2020 or 2021 and the next year's World Cup and so on and so forth, and even to be banned completely from the domestic leagues, right? So that's the effect that it has on the players, and indirectly that's that is the middle finger,
Yeah.
So it's very very inconsiderate.
Well, just playing devil's advocate, okay. Obviously UEFA, FIFA, they make a lot of money from those competitions.
No, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
FIFA and UEFA, or even the Premier League, they're not they're making themselves look like they're maybe angels now, but they've got their own interests here at hand as well. So it's not all like this is the villain and that's the hero. No, not at all. It's when everyone everyone's looking after their own interests. That's for sure. But I don't. It's very naively sort of executed.
Because just again playing devil's advocate, we might get some some hate comments down below as well potentially. But if you think about it, right, the NBA, Okay, yes, it's a closed system. You don't necessarily have new franchises joining the system all the time, but you do have different conferences. You do have an element of competition. Otherwise, no one would watch it, right? They want to know who's going to win the Eastern Conference. They want to know who's going to win the playoffs, right? And the same thing happens with the Super Bowl. I mean, the Super Bowl makes ridiculous amounts of money, but only because people watch it. If no one was watching the Super Bowl, then it wouldn't make any money, right?
Yeah.
So the logic behind starting a Super League which has pairings like Chelsea against Barcelona and has those pairings more often, the logic behind it is not crazy. You'd think that the average football fan would like to see a big clash between, or a big derby.
But how often a year? I mean, part of the beauty of the Champions League is that, your AC Milan versus United or your Chelsea versus Barcelona does not happen every year or every season, because those clubs have got to earn their place to even be able to face each other,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole beauty of it for a lot of football fans I know. So, and including myself, I would want to watch, United versus Barcelona,
Every
four
week.
times a year.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's kind of like, I'll watch the next one, right? But, as it stands, for all the flaws of FIFA and UEFA, the format is fine. I'm fine with it. Kids, I grew up, I know a lot of the football players, they grew up, watching Champions League finals, knockout rounds, and that's what they have, that's what they aspire to be part of, and, the competition they want to compete in, right? So, again, the beauty of it is like, anybody or any club, if they earn their place, and they can compete at that level.
Exactly. So that makes a lot of sense. I was just playing devil's advocate there. Do you think that something like the Super League, because there's teams that have huge debts. I mean, Tottenham. I mean, they're in the bag for like a couple hundred million.
United.
United, all these teams, they have huge debts. So how do they solve that debt issue, especially now, because some of the excuses from the teams is that the youth have lower attention spans. They're watching highlights on TikTok. How do they get that money back? How do they recoup that money?
That like shorter attention span, that's a cop out, bro. That's a cop out for sure. It's probably a scientific fact, that there are shorter attention spans now. But
yeah, all I have to do is look at my YouTube analytics, and I can tell you that people don't always watch the whole way through.
But that's just that's the front. That is really the front. So if you're talking about clubs' debts, right? Because when United was sold to the Glazers family, zero debt. The club had zero debt. So the reason why they bought the club in the first place is to pay themselves dividends. Okay. So that's the messed up thing about it, because they're not football people at all. This guy, one of the Glazer brothers, he didn't even know what offside was. Like, apparently, it took him like 2 years. There's a meme going around on Twitter about this.
Allegedly, though. Allegedly, let's not get sued. But yeah,
sure, allegedly. But the point is, they're not football people, and the records, financial records, speak for themselves, right? So, like, now you can understand why they created the Super League. When you look at the owners of Liverpool, again, another American, right, who owns I think, a couple of American football clubs.
Yeah, it's LA Rams and stuff like that.
Yeah, FSG, right? And then you have Stan Kroenke, the owner of Arsenal, also an American. It's these guys that are behind it, that put their name on it, and it's just pure business, man. Like, and that's why these clubs are in debt. Because if before United was sold to the Glazers, United had zero debt, then what happened, during the term of the Glazers?
Well, when did they get it? In 1995 or
2005, I think it was.
2005.
Or I can't remember precisely.
Well, just to play devil's advocate again, have there been any improvements to this infrastructure, the stadium, like that kind of? That's where that would come from.
Zero. Absolutely zero, Matt. Like, Old Trafford is it's falling apart.
It's living up to the name.
Oh yeah, it's living up to that old for sure.
Wow. Okay, so then that's less of an excuse, like for the debt. I mean, for Tottenham, they bought a new stadium. They built a new stadium,
They
right?
built a new stadium, yeah. So for them, like to join this, first of all, I don't know how they consider themselves a super league or sorry, a super club, not having even won a European title, and to be
Oh,
part of.
okay. Tottenham fans are gonna roast you in the comments, man.
Even Arsenal. But anyways, it's not the point. The point is, yeah, the debts, man. Like that's all self-inflicted.
Right, so Boris Johnson was saying he's going to give this whole Super League the red card. He was saying he's going to have his ministers look into it and maybe restructure how football can function going forward. But let's say, what would be the best situation? At the moment, you do have these billionaires owning these clubs, so there is a financial incentive for them to own the clubs. If you did something more like the Spanish teams do, where the membership pays for part of the ownership of the clubs. Let's say that in Barcelona, the fans pay 100 and something euros a year. Is it a year or a month to be members of Barcelona? So, is that something that you'd like to see in the UK? Because arguably, Barcelona, they're the people who like watching those games. They would benefit from something like the Super League and those extra, viewing rights.
Yeah, in terms of like ownership structure, I think the German model is pretty it's pretty good, whereby the fans get to own 51% of the club. So they obviously any major changes that is to take place to the club, need to be run, by the supporters, first because obviously they own the majority. In terms of revenues, I think with the current format of your like the European competitions or the international competitions, I think it's okay already. I think what needs to happen is for clubs to come together and renegotiate maybe terms with the football governing bodies. The current structure isn't working because we feel we need to get more in order to pay for our expenses or whatever. But on the other hand, I think clubs need to also look at themselves internally and amongst each other and maybe start considering salary caps. Yes, I understand it's become a business more than a sport now, but it's still sport,
Are,
but it's
are you talking about salary caps for players or for management?
for players. Well, for anybody, players and managers, I think there should be a salary cap. If 10 years ago you're looking at, I don't know what, 80 million, or in 2009, 80 million for Cristiano Ronaldo was like it's a crazy amount. Like it's unthinkable. But now 80 million is like nothing, and we're only 10 years later. Neymar to PSG was like 222 million back. I don't know 2-3 years ago.
Who gets that money
And
though? The clubs,
the
right?
the club, the selling club,
Yeah.
and then that's before any agents fees, right? So it's these sort of things that I think need to be regulated by an independent body who obviously have the interest of the greater good, I guess you can call it.
Is the thinking behind that the leagues become more competitive then if you curtail spending? So that it's not just the billionaire owner clubs that do well. It's not just a sheikh who can come in and completely transform a Man City. It would be more based on the talent of the individuals that they can
Exactly, and
homegrown.
really, yeah, really rework that financial fair play. Really have a system whereby if it is an English club, then there must be a minimum. I don't know.
Quota.
You must meet, yeah, exactly. You must meet the minimum quota of local players, right, or academy players, and things like this. I think this is when you really see what do you call it improvements in football, right? Just in general, because now it's getting a little bit out of control. If I'm honest, like for a player to earn, not that I have anything against a player earning high amounts of money, but obviously how it is being distributed and the impact that it has on like the lower leagues and infrastructures and the whole football pyramid is immense if it's not regulated. I think.
Okay. So to sum up, the Super League, they're going to try and find some other way to make money. right? Whether if it's not the Super League right now, it might be, playing games in different countries, maybe playing some more home games in Singapore if you're a Premier League team or something along those lines. They need to get those revenues up because, as you said, it is a financial endeavor at the moment, right? It's owned by a businessman. So you're saying the only way to really combat that is to adopt more of the German model, in which the fans have a majority ownership of the club.
Yes.
Right. And the other thing that you're suggesting is that you put caps on, maximum salaries,
Yeah.
both for players, management, owners, the lot.
Yeah.
Right. So now, just from a very grassroots perspective, you are managing an under 19 footballer at the moment. Now, what are the economics of that like? Because I can't imagine that there would be huge payouts in in the fourth division. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the challenge now is to receive an offer, a professional, an offer for a professional contract. So which we are not there yet. Obviously, as a manager, you need to look after his well being. That he's eating well. That he's being, that he's sleeping well. All of his daily stuff. You need to sort of monitor, and because at the end of the day, he's also still a teenager, right? Living on his own. In my case, I'm also his sponsor, so it's a manager slash sponsor. But in view to him, hopefully, in the not so distant future, getting an offer for a professional contract.
At which point you could recoup some of those investments.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really down to what you and the player and his parents agree to in terms of what we are trying to do which is ultimately making a professional player out of him.
At what point do you become a professional? Right. Obviously, if you make money from anything.
So at the point where you get offered basically a salary that is equivalent to a living,
enough to live on, for sure. So
Yeah.
Is there a discrepancy between the different countries and their different leagues? For example, he's in the Netherlands right now. If he gets to the third division in the Netherlands, would that be professional, or how does that vary across the different
So in
leagues?
the Netherlands, the professional, what you consider the professional leagues are the Eredivisie, which is the Premier League of the Dutch league, and then you have the second division, and then the third division. So it's three levels
Of professional.
So if you are competing, and any player that is competing from Division 3 upwards, you can call them professionals. They're pretty much making a living. On the other hand, in England, I think it's division. So it's Premier League, then you have League, and then you have Championship, League One, and then League Two, and then you have non-league. Non-league is, you can say, fifth division. I know some of those players are, I'm pretty sure making a living.
In the fifth division, or in the non-league.
Fifth division is basically equals non-league.
Right.
But to be more safe, if you're in League Two, you're definitely on a living salary.
When deciding on who to manage, do you take that into account? You're like, okay, this player looks like he would be a solid, championship player, and therefore able to make X amount a week. Therefore, it's worth my time and my investment. Like, how do you break it down in terms of an investment?
I think the first factor, I think it's probably the most important factor, is age versus how you evaluate his talent at that particular age, at first sighting. So, for example, if he's 7, he's obviously, he's very, very, very young, but, there are already trials, for children at the age of 7, right?
Wow.
So the bigger the club, the lower the age of the trial that they would hold, right? So, for example, Arsenal wouldn't hold a trial for age 10s and over. So they would have trials for age 7, 8, and 9, and 10 maybe. But older than that, then you probably can never, ever trial again as a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old at Arsenal. So you would have to get scouted, right? I'm talking about like open trials. Whereas, like, if you look at a club in the championship or a first division, they are more likely to hold trials still for 12, 13-year-olds. Okay, so obviously when you're looking at a player, the earlier the better, because then there are more doors open for you.
You become a geriatric footballer at the age of 11. then, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Pretty much it. Yeah.
gotta start them young. Wow. So when you
Yeah.
started managing and sponsoring this footballer that you have, how old was he?
He was 17. So the chances of him playing in the Premier League, at first sighting is already next to, well, I don't want to say impossible, but unlikely. But having said that, I was realistic enough to know that that's not the ultimate goal. It is possible, but it's not the ultimate goal. Not to be pessimistic, I would be very happy if he can, for example, get up to the play for a club in the second division in Holland, or even League One, even League Two. I'd be pretty stoked, because for example, in England, the levels go, they go quite deep, and they go to like 10, 11, 12, depending on the area you live in. But I think if you play in League Two, coming out of a country where the football infrastructure or grassroots football don't even exist, he's basically, whatever talent that, whatever you see him, whatever I did see in him at the age of like 17, it was all just natural ability. Only now is he actually being, learning the football academics, on a
Yes.
technical level.
Wow. So just for anyone watching this who has no idea, pretty much like me, how much does a footballer make per week if they are in one of those lower divisions? Let's say in the second division in the UK or in the first division.
Well, if you're in the second division in the UK, it's good money, man. Like, championship is maybe starting from 10K,
A week.
a week. Yeah,
That's good. That's good money. That's good
that's
money.
very good. Whereas if you, for example, in Holland, second division, you might be only looking at like 1,500, 2,000, which is a big difference. But then again, this has to do with this. It's got to do with the pull of that particular league.
And the sponsorship
Um,
money and yeah.
yeah, which is obviously related to all of that.
Right. And obviously,
Yeah.
you can have different players on the same team making wildly different amounts of money, and that comes
yeah.
down to
Yeah.
the negotiation of the
Correct.
manager, agent, that aspect. So
Correct.
you haven't had to yet do any of that, but
No.
we'll definitely have to have another chat when you do, because I'm super interested
Sounds good, man.
in that hustle. All right, brother.
That's good.
Thank you so much for the chat today, and I
Yeah.
guess you're happy.
Having-
It's good news that at the moment the Super League is not going ahead as a Manchester United fan.
Everyone is happy, bro. It's not just me. But all the fans are happy. I
Amazing.
can guarantee you that, and even the players.
All right, that's
The
pretty.
only people that are not happy are the owners.
All right, cool. So you're a happy Manchester United fan, and you are. It seems like you're doing a.
Oh, you know what else I'm happy about? The one of the senior executives resigned because of the backlash. Well, the official statement didn't say because of the backlash, but we all know it's because of the backlash. So
That's for United,
you know,
right?
yeah, that's one step in the right direction. The next step is to get the owners out. They're just not welcome anymore, man. I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. Bombshell at the end of it. Well, it sounds like you're doing really well with your footballer. I wish you all the best of luck. Can't wait to see him
Thank you,
in
brother.
one of those leagues, man. Making between 2,000 and 10,000 a week. Be pretty sweet. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and telling us all about this today, D. That's Diaz. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
All right. Peace.
If you thought this video was interesting, crush the like button and also hit the share button. Maybe you have a friend who's interested in soccer, interested in football. Send it over to them and get their opinion too. That would be awesome. Now, I'll see you in the next video. The algorithm thinks you're going to like these videos next. I'll see you in there. Let's hustle together.